My name is Chad Brown, and this is my story.
What's your story?
Gotcha. So tell everyone, where you from?
From New Orleans, Louisiana. Spent the first, well, I guess not half of my life, but the first 11 years of my life uptown, General Persian and Broad. And my mom passed away. We'll talk about that a little later. But when my dad remarried, I moved to New Orleans East. So I grew up, in the East. Went to Abe, 19, class of 98, shout out. So, yeah, from New Orleans, man.
Gotcha. Hey, before we jump, fully in this interview, tell people who you are and actually, what do you actually do?
Wow. So I am at the core of who I am. I'm a PK. I'm a son of a preacher, prominent pastor here in the city, Bishop Charles Brown, and I'm a musician. I play drums professionally. I'm an artist. I sing professionally with several albums and singles out. I am an author. Proud to say that I'm an Amazon best-selling author. I am I'm a playwright, screenwriter. I just wrote my first movie, and and I'm a husband and a father of seven and a grandfather of one. Yeah, that's
So you have one, journey.
yeah,
Yeah,
man.
journey to where you're at right now.
Life has been a journey for sure.
So, you just kind of told the people a whole lot. What you have, accomplished so far. So we're going to jump into the plays first.
Okay.
So what inspired you to actually, actually write your own play?
Oh yeah, actually, it's a movie, and being a gospel artist, I'm very into theater and into musicals or what have you. So I realized that there weren't any gospel musicals out, and so because I have relationships within the gospel community, I don't know, man. I was just inspired to write a movie called Altered, the musical, and it's just a movie about redemption and grace and forgiveness, and essentially how it doesn't matter how we mess up, man. You can never stray too far away from God to pull you back in. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm being in Hollywood and in LA, if you will. I'm surrounded by people who are in that industry, and so sometimes you just kind of catch the bug. I never aspired to be a movie writer, screenwriter, but yeah, here we are.
Gotcha. So, you know, you have a book that you've been branding, telling the world about.
Yes, sir.
So I want you to introduce, with your book and tell people how you actually, came up with the name, but then we'll jump into, everything from there.
Okay. So I wrote a book entitled "Surviving Katrina: The Untold Stories of New Orleans Pastors 20 Years Later," and I was asleep, man. I was asleep about 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I was asleep, and I woke up at about 4 o'clock in the morning. Used the restroom, came, got back into bed, and I couldn't go back to sleep. And so I'm just laying there, and all of a sudden, this book, this idea, this what's looking like it's turning into a movement, just dropped in my spirit, and I kind of shrugged it off because I said, well, maybe it was the red beans and rice I had the night before. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm tripping. I went back to sleep and woke up about 6:30 in the morning, and that thing was still just sitting on me heavy. And so I knew then, all right, I've been down this road before. Like if I get a song idea, if I get a movie idea or what have you, I knew then that it was something that I needed, a project that I needed to bring to life. And so I had thought of these very prominent pastors in the city that I have relationships with. And I said, well, if I call them to be a part of it and they say yes, then I'll know that it was not, in fact, the red beans and rice I had the night before, but, it was really the Lord wanting me to do this project. I called, every last one of them said yes immediately. And we brought this thing to life in 3 weeks. I got this idea 3 weeks ago, and now we're sitting here with books in hand. So it was a fast moving process.
You want to show me your book?
Yeah. Shout out to CBM Writing Solutions. That's my writing company who put this together. Surviving Katrina, The Untold Stories of New Orleans Pastors 20 years later. Pastor Fred Luter, Pastor Deborah B. Morton, who's the wife of Bishop Paul Morton, Bishop Charles E. Brown, who happens to be my father, Bishop R.C. Blakes Jr., Bishop J.D. Wiley Taylor, and Pastor Jonathan Everett, all contributing authors. They all have a story in here to tell
And
about
big
their
pastors in
journey.
the city.
Got some pretty heavy hitters, man.
And RC is actually my pastor.
Really?
And Sam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So your pastor's on there, so now you gotta get you a copy. That's my man.
Gotcha. So, give the people like something brief about, your book. Like but I still want people to go and actually buy it. So, I want you to tell them something but why should people go out and actually buy your book?
Yeah, man. So listen, in brief, we've heard stories about first responders. We've heard stories about, FEMA, politicians, infrastructure, and all these things. But for 20 years, no one has asked the question, what about the pastors who lost everything, not just their personal possessions, but they lost their churches, their buildings, and their members lost everything. So these guys and women had to carry a really, really heavy load. And so what my hope is that people will view pastors in a different light, that they will understand the sacrifices. There's a lot of stigma around it. A lot of, what I'm saying, all they want is your money type of stuff. And, pastors get judged very, very harshly. We live in the spotlight. So, we can't sneeze wrong without somebody wanting to expose us or put something out there negative about us. And so this book really tells their emotional journey, man, of how they struggled. My dad used to say something to me all the time: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so this book really dives into exposing how much these pastors and the others around the city, I couldn't interview everybody, but how much these pastors truly cared about the people of New Orleans. They weren't interested in going to rebuild Bourbon Street or rebuild the Superdome. They were interested in rebuilding the broken hearts of the people, man. And so that's really what it's about. Without going into, I guess I can share with you maybe one or two short stories, but that's really what it's about.
Gotcha. So, even just I'm like talking about Hurricane Katrina, they have so much going on right now still around Katrina. Like this is like, almost I'm like 3 decades, but it's actually 2 decades right now since Hurricane Katrina. And they just had one big documentary come out on,
Right. I saw
Hulu. So like, bring us to, your experience of Hurricane Katrina.
Shoot, man. My experience, I'll never forget. Sunday, we'd gone to church. I went to church with my dad. At this time, they had just announced that it's going to be a hurricane, a category 5. So my dad, being the kind of pastor he was, he said, man, still got to go by the church. Might be some people who show up, and still trying to have church, man. I was like, bro, what's wrong with you, dog? He was still trying to have church, but we got there, man, and my dad easily had 1,000 members. We got there, and I think 6 people showed up, and so I believe he knew then that we gotta take this thing serious. So what we did was we just kind of elevated some stuff. None of us expected that it would be like this. None of us expected 10 feet of water. So we just elevated a few things to just kind of make sure if it flooded a little bit, we'd be okay. And we left, and it took us 21 hours to drive to Houston. That's a 5-hour drive. We had to they wouldn't even let us go west. We had to go east and up through Mississippi and cut back through and come back down. I kept telling my dad, like, bro, let's just go to Atlanta. We're already going east. Let's just keep going east. But he felt very, very strongly about going to Houston. So it took us 21 hours to get there. And I'll never forget that Tuesday, we were staying at a hotel and we were in the lobby eating. And I believe I was like at the buffet getting my food, and I heard a scream. And so, of course, I was startled, and I looked over. And I can't remember if it was my sister or my cousin, but one of them screamed out loud. And when I rushed over to see what was going on, I looked at the screen, and it literally said, New Orleans is underwater. And my heart broke, man.
But how old were you?
I was 25.
And so you was already one full I'm like adult as well.
Yeah, I
And
had
so
already
you,
gotten
yeah.
married. I had just had my second child. My son was born in January, and so this is August. So I didn't even have a 1-year-old yet.
So bring me back to that day when you saw that like New Orleans is underwater, it's gone. Like I don't
Oh,
have no
bro,
job, I have no money. Like what's going?
heartbroken. But
Yeah,
you know what's so heartbreaking about it is it'd be one thing if we had heard, man, Dad's house, got flooded out. Oh, okay, Dad, come live with us for a second. We'll figure it out. But it was everybody. It was 18 of us at the time at that hotel. All 18 of us discovered on the same day at the same time that we lost everything. We didn't even need pictures and stuff. When we saw the neighborhoods, when we saw Circle Food Store on Claiborne,
you
my
already knew.
dad's church is about 6 blocks down the street from there on Claiborne. When we saw Circle Food Store with water up to the second story, oh, we knew ain't nothing to talk about. Right? When we saw New Orleans East, where I grew up, and my dad's house was on the lake. He lived on Lake Willow. So he also had a lake in his backyard. Gone. Just between the lake waters and the waters coming in, you couldn't tell one from the other. Heartbroken, man. I was stunned. I'm not a super emotional guy, but inside I literally felt my heart break. But I tell you one of the most heartbreaking parts about it, and I write about this in the book as my story. The thing that still to this day messes with me is my mom passed away when I was 11, right? 1991. And so what Katrina did that can't be replaced is it stole my memories. I'm 45 years old and I don't have a single baby picture. I'm 45 years old and the only pictures that I have of my mother is if somebody else posted something on Facebook, what have you, but I have nothing. First 11 years of my life and everything that it represented,
Can't see
gone.
none of it.
Completely gone. You can't duplicate it. I can't go back and redo it. And so that to this day is that's a pain that just you just kind of there's some pains you just gotta live with and you just learn to manage it. So I've learned to manage that pain, but that pain ain't went nowhere.
Right. Oh, this is my question. I always want to ask someone this, like, cause like, I would ask myself this, but people around the world ask like, what makes us come back to New Orleans, knowing we under sea level, knowing that we are just one category 5 away again
Crazy,
from
bro.
the same thing.
We crazy. Oh, we crazy. Listen, ain't nothing. We from New Orleans. You crazy, all right? And I'm born and raised there, so I'm saying we, not y'all.
Yeah.
So because I live in California, outside of Los Angeles in a city called Fontana, I'll tell you something that New Orleans has that even Los Angeles doesn't have. Culture. There is literally no place in the United States of America, or probably even the world, like New Orleans, Louisiana. It is, when you're from here, like you probably seen the running joke. People ask me like, "You from Louisiana?" Nah, I ain't from Louisiana. I'm from New Orleans.
Right.
Right? New Orleans is not Louisiana. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Shout out to all our folk in Shreveport and Lake Charles.
Everywhere
We love y'all.
outside New Orleans.
Yeah,
I
but-
say outside the 504 because like I still say the Kennedy and the West Bank still
Yeah,
feel the same
we
effects.
claim them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're foster children.
That's what you gonna say?
But no, it's just different. The soul of the people, the community. Yeah, it can be dangerous at times. Yeah, you gotta watch your back, you know what I'm saying? But there is a thing that New Orleanians have that you just won't find. And I've traveled extensively, bro. Like I've gone back and forth. I mean, the last 20 years of my life, and even before, I've been on and off of airplanes, what feels like all of my life, right? So as a person who has preached in 41 out of 50 states, I can tell you with great assurance, there is no place like New Orleans, Louisiana.
Oh, I know. I used to go everywhere and like I still find my way back here. Like, how did I end up
man.
here again?
And the people say the food is good, but for me, it's the spirit, it's the soul of the people, it's the spirit of the city, it's the I mean, I find myself in California because after I've traveled so much, I kind of, I guess, lost my accent or what have you. And really, it was intentional. I ain't lose it. I kind of taught myself to speak, a little more universally.
Because people don't understand half the
Because
stuff we say.
and when I would go preach, all people would want me to do is say certain things. Say baby, say this. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, come on,
It
y'all.
has nothing
And
to do
so
with the Bible.
ain't got nothing to do with what I'm here for. And so people were always fascinated by it. You know what I mean? What they say? You heard me? My sister-in-law be like, she from California. Chad, I go, what's Sam? What's Sam? It's like, oh God, you got to cut it out. Like, but all that is a part of the culture, man.
Right.
And you can't find it. You can't get it nowhere else. And I think that's the part that people need to understand. I know I jokingly said we're crazy, but at the end of the day, this is home.
Right.
And you can't help where you're born. This is home. I meet Jamaicans who are from Jamaica but live over here, and they'll tell you, Jamaica is home.
Right.
And how can you go visit a third world country? Because that's home. That's the place that raised me, taught me everything I know. Like I learned how to fight in New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? I learned how to do business in New Orleans. I learned how to treat people. Like I learned, I learned all that. Yeah.
And that's one thing New Orleans have if anyone traveled a lot, they know you can't go nowhere else in the world and actually speak to people and they speak back. Only place you can speak to people is New Orleans. Or possibly some places in Louisiana, but New Orleans probably the only major city that the world know that everyone will actually speak back to you.
And when you're from New Orleans, when you tell people you're from New Orleans, it's an immediate conversation. It's an immediate conversation. I don't. It doesn't matter if they're black, white. When I tell people, I can be on the elevator or on a plane that I'm from New Orleans. Oh man, I love that city. Then again, they want to know about boudin and just things that are just very specific to the culture. The craziest question they ask me is, "Have I ever been to Mardi Gras?" Nah, bro, I ain't been.
We are part of it.
Yeah, I ain't been.
I
to
feel like
Mardi
it's
Gras.
always Mardi Gras.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, but the second lining, you can't. There is no other city in America. The closest thing to New Orleans, you got to go to the Caribbean.
Yeah, you gotta go across the world.
You got to go to the Caribbean, or you got to go to Africa. That's the spirit of New Orleans, man. I've lived in Atlanta, I've lived in Houston, I've lived in Vegas, lived in Los Angeles, and none of those places have that. You do a second line in Atlanta and see, you don't scare these people to half to death.
Right.
But it's just a bunch of black folk walking down the street dancing. What is going on here?
If they're gonna think it's a protest.
They're gonna think it's a protest. Doc. They're gonna send the National Guard out.
Gotcha.
So it's home, bro. That's the only way I can explain it.
Gotcha. So, being one pastor kid, we gotta get this before we leave. Like,
Yeah.
hey, but how was that growing up for you? Because, usually you hear like these stories, like, hey, but like being one pastor's kid, you always on one like pedestal, and everyone in the church watching you. Everybody got that eye able for to make sure you on your best behavior and different things like that. So I want to hear how it was for you.
So I'm the youngest boy of 3 kids by my mom, and then when my dad married, I have a stepsister. My stepmom already had a daughter. So I try not to say I'm the youngest now because that's my youngest sister, right? That's my baby sister. But of growing up, I grew up as the youngest. And it was different for us. I hear the horror stories or what have you. I think preacher kids' sons have a much different experience than preacher kid daughters.
Right.
So my sisters, oh, they hated it. They wish my dad would walk away from pastoring. They got judged. They, got called fast. They couldn't be talking to no little boy. They judged by if their skirt is too high, if they got on shorts or what have you. Me and my brother, my oldest brother Chuck, we didn't have to deal with that. And then we was just cut from a different cloth. So, if you said something to us, we was gonna say something right back. Most PKs are not like that. They kind of just internalize it. But Charles Brown had some different kind of kids, bro. Even my sister, with all the things that she experienced, man, Dawn will cut you. But I like to say that it was a great experience for me, and it could be because we were very involved in ministry. So, like I said, I'm singing, I'm playing drums, my brother's playing keys, my sister's leading songs. So we was really involved. And I think because we brought something to the table and we contributed something, it probably made it just a little easier. We weren't the spoiled kids who just sat on the front row, looking like we got a silver spoon in our mouths. And so it was different for us. And then my dad had a very progressive church. So, to be a Church of God in Christ church, Kojic, that's typically old school. I mean, in the 80s, the women in my dad's church was wearing pants and makeup. And that was like a huge no-no across the Kojic community, across the country. So we were already pretty progressive. And then we right up the street from the Lafitte, projects or whatever. So we had a lot of people from the community. And you quickly discover those people just trying to survive, man. They don't care nothing about all this mess. So we kind of had it a little easier than most PKs because you ask another PK, you'll get a horror story, right? Oh, I hated it. They judged me. They da da da. My dad kind of shielded us from that, man. I didn't have to really deal with if people were talking about us and downing us. It was definitely behind our backs. We didn't know. Well, until I got a girl pregnant. Till I got a girl pregnant, and then those
It was out of
whispers.
wedlock.
It was out of wedlock. Those whispers were pretty strong. You know what I'm saying? So I had to get
And what
sat
was your
down.
conversation? Oh, like with your father? Yeah, that's the one I was.
I had to get sat down. Like I couldn't play the drums, and sing or whatever. They kind of had to just take some, disciplinary action, if you will. But again, I had a father. My dad has never been a hell, fire, and brimstone type of guy. He's always been a man who showed grace and forgiveness. And so, he supported us because what you gonna do? Unpregnate her?
All right.
You gonna send the baby back? You can't. And so he's always been like, hey, the baby is not the sin. The baby is the result of it.
It's
so
the parents who did this.
yeah, we here now. So what we gonna do? And I was grown at the time. I wasn't like teenage pregnancy. I was 24. I was 23. So yeah,
I feel like back in the day, like and especially back in the day before social media and all that, like church gossip stayed in the church.
it stayed local.
Like now it's spread like wildfire.
Oh, they'd have killed us. If this was now, then we wouldn't. Because I always say the internet is undefeated. You can't. I don't care who you are. Mike Tyson can't beat the internet, right?
Yeah.
If that had been now, then they would have crucified me, my brother, and both of my sisters, and we wouldn't have been able to do nothing but just be exposed. So I'm glad that I grew up in the era where, I made all these mistakes before camera phones.
Got you. So
Yeah.
and before we leave out here, I'm like, what's next for you?
Man, so we're gonna keep promoting this book, Surviving Katrina, which by the way, you can go to survivingkatrina.com, order a copy, they're already ready. Survivingkatrina.com. This kind of interrupted. I was in full movie mode before this dropped in my spirit. All my calls had to do with getting financing for this movie so we can start shooting, right? So as soon as I get through the 1st of September, we're going to still be pushing this for the rest of the year, but I'll get back to pursuing the movie thing. And then my company, CBM Writing Solutions, we are a ghostwriting company. So my day job, if you will, is that I ghostwrite books for authors. So, people have an idea or what have you, they come to me and I bring their ideas to life. And we do everything from the writing, the formatting, the editing, and cover design.
Right.
And so, like I said, this was a quick job, but we did this whole project in 3 weeks from start to finish. I think it came out pretty good myself. So that's what's next for me, man. Get out here and try to tackle this movie scene, and keep writing, keep writing my own books. We're gonna see how this, what this turns into. Because right now it's a book about pastors who survived Katrina, but all over the country, when disaster happens, pastors are usually on the front line,
Right.
helping to rebuild the people. And so, I mean, as long as we're alive, we're gonna have to deal with disaster, right? I mean, so depending on what's happening, this may turn into a series of books. I don't know. I gotta go pray about that. But Yeah, that's why I am.
Or I could turn into if documentaries, anything.
It could turn into a documentary. You know what I'm saying? Tyler, if you watching, homeboy, you
We're
and
gonna
Divine
tag
Franklin,
you.
let's do something.
Let's
Let's make
talk.
it happen. Let's talk. Holla at your boy. But yeah, man, we that's what's next for me, and I hope that I hope this book sell 1 million copies.
And I want to ask that question. As soon as you said you have a writing company, like, do you feel like with your writing company have to kind of get into with the new time or kind of step it up because of like AI now?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've studied AI for the last 3 years. I mean, in-depth study, and we have found how to incorporate it into our process without allowing it to take over, because you want things to remain organic. You want things to because the one thing that AI can't give you is emotion. There's certain things that AI can't recall. Like, you still have to do the work. And so a lot of people just go to AI, little chat GPT, and some of them pay a little $20 a month and think that they're doing something. And they don't even understand, with the systems that we use, the information of the world is at our fingertips. But see, I'm paying about almost $300 a month for access to, like, information, at the speed of light, really. And we incorporate that. But again, AI, it should be AAI, because it should be artificial assistant intelligence. Because if you use it that way, then you can be very, very successful. If you rely solely on it, then you're gonna have some problems.
Right.
And so some people go, "Oh, I could just use AI and write a book." And I'm gonna say, "Well, I tell you what, let's pick a subject, and you use AI and write a book, and then let me go through my process."
It's
And
only gonna
let's-
stay on that one subject. If
yeah.
you're familiar with AI,
Yeah, and then let's see who got the better book at the end, because most people don't know what they're doing. That's all.
right? Most people don't realize AI. You really still have to read over it.
Absolutely.
Because I write articles, and a few times I'm like, oh man, I didn't. But that don't mean that.
I can't give you
Yeah.
the secrets on camera because
Yeah.
I can't cut into my bag. But
Yeah.
but off camera, I tell you some things that have helped me to, this is my eighth book. This is my eighth book that I've written and brought to print in the last year and a half.
I see you working.
I ain't stopping until I get to 200 books.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Everywhere you look, at some point you're gonna see Chad Brown. I'm hoping to get this into airports and other places that that will stand out. Yeah, but then we also we build websites, and we do the whole kind of branding thing that gives me a little bit of an edge, because I'm a one-stop shop.
Right.
So if you go like, bro, I need the whole thing, and I want to announce it online, but I tell you what, I don't think you can beat my prices either. Most ghostwriter prices start at $12,000-$15,000 to ghostwrite a book, and they don't do all of this. They just write.
You doing it all.
I'm doing it all for a fraction of that, because my whole heart is toward helping the common person. I'm not trying to take people to the bank, because if we all charge $15,000 to write a book, then you know how many people can't afford to do that. So I've priced mine in a way that the average person can have a shot at their dream coming true.
Right.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And that's the heart of a pastor.
And also, last but not least, tell the world. I'm like, what can he find you at, your book at, and everything on social media, websites, everything.
Man, on social media, I am at Pastor Chad Brown on everything. At Pastor Chad Brown on Instagram, and Facebook.com/Pastor Chad Brown. You can go to Google, and apparently I'm Googleable now, so you can type Pastor Chad Brown or Prophet Chad Brown, and I'll come up. We're on TikTok. I changed the name on TikTok for a season to Surviving Katrina, to push the book. And then you can go to ChadBrownMinistries.com to excuse me, to see about who I am or what have you. But as far as the book goes, survivingkatrina.com for this book, If you want to sneak peek into all my other books, then you can go to chadbrownbooks.com. And if you're interested in my writing services because you want a book as well, then you can go to useghostwriters.com. And all the information for our book writing and prices is at useghostwriters.com. So whether you're writing a novel, a memoir, self-help book, or what have you, we can bring your dream to life. So, but what's most important right now, survivingkatrina.com. Get your copy, share it with the world, man. This has been a super, super honor, bro. Super honored to be
Thank you.
here.
What's your story?